Welcome to Esoteric Thoughts. Today we have something a bit different, thanks to Micah. Today we have Micah and Priscilla, who is an astrologist. So over to you, Micah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I met Priscilla. We were 3 years ago, right when I hadn't done any podcasts yet, but like the books had just come out, and I was promoting my work. Before I had a YouTube channel, I was promoting my work, and hold on. Okay. We basically just met in a chat room. Well, not really a chat room, but it was like a one of those Facebook groups, and it was just wild. We started talking, and she's constantly just doing all these readings for people that I know, and she's been doing them for me, and she's just the best. And sometimes I have to remind her that. But yeah, no. So let me start again. We wrote a children's book together. It was called A is for Aries. And we're coming with a second one, which is going to be, so the first one was for 6 to 11-year-old, and the second one's going to be for 12, 13 to 18. It's going to be a little more complicated. So you're going to talk about all the stuff that Priscilla basically has to get to me with, what a node is, what an asteroid, what all this means. So we're going to explain that to kids, and I thought maybe she can go over some of the things that you find in a birth chart, like I just mentioned, like the node or this and that, and explain what some of that means.
Okay.
That works for me. Can anybody see me?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay, so I'm Priscilla. It's very nice to meet everybody. I am an astrologer, and yes, I met Micah in a chat group. He was talking about astrotheology, and that's exactly how I found astrology, was actually through the Bible. So when I saw that he was speaking on things like that, I realized he knew what he was, doing, and we just kind of hit it off from there. So yes, we have book 1, A is for Aries, and we are going to work on book 2. And yeah, so that's great. We're going to, do that for kids that are a little bit older, so that I can get all the specific details in. Astrology is really, really vast. There's so many ways to do astrology, so many different techniques, and so many ways to utilize astrology specifically for, not just our personal growth, not just, relationship issues, or, things with family. Even, astrology is able to look at things on a lineage aspect, like things that you can't see on a 3D level, but you can see, through those charts. And you can tell, you can see things on a 4D level, spirituality, your reasons for even being here today, where you've walked in other lifetimes. I know not everybody believes in past lives, but I do. And specifically because I do astrology, because prior to astrology, I wasn't aware that we reincarnated. I was indoctrinated into religion, and I've always known that there was a lot more to life than these religious dogmas. So, when I got introduced into astrology, which was when I was young, I was 8 or 9 years old. And it was just by watching TV, actually. My mom was, I'm Hispanic, and my mom would watch the Spanish soap operas. And, after that, the news would come on, and there would be a segment of this, really animated astrologer. He wore makeup, the whole nine. He was a Pisces, so it makes sense, because Neptune rules Pisces, and Neptune is wearing a mask, or makeup and beauty. It's a higher octave of Venus. So anyways, he would do a segment on the zodiacs, and this is how I got introduced to it originally. And then fast forward to my early 20s, I was doing school online, and I would drift off into the rabbit holes on the internet. And my older brother was connected with some people, which they were called the Hebrew Israelites. And so from there, learning that religious sect, they spoke a lot about astrology and reincarnation. And so that just kind of, when I was in online school, I would research and try to really understand where they were coming from, their angle of the Bible. And it just took me down that world of astrology. And I found astrology in the Book of Enoch. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. Like I said, astrology is very, very, like very deep, profound, esoteric science. And I call it a science because I believe it's like the science of energy. It's the science of, it's like a language, you know, you have to know how to speak this language to really understand it. So yeah.
So, quick question, Priscilla.
Go ahead.
Are you religious now?
I don't want to say I'm religious because I feel like religion is, like I said, it's a dogma. It's more so a limitation is how I look at it. I would call myself more spiritual. I do believe in God, but I don't believe in God in the way that religion tries to define it. You know, because they try to say, you know, first they try to say him. I don't necessarily believe that. I believe it's a duality aspect. So yeah, no, I'm not religious.
And in terms of astrology, this is the first time that I've tackled this topic on the channel. So can you briefly summarize to you what is astrology and more about the science of astrology? Absolutely.
So astrology to me, like I said, is the energy of the universe and human existence. It is how we function on the earth, pertaining to how the planets move around. So to me, the planets are luminaries. They are living bodies to me. And then, so because of this, they emit energy out onto Earth. And as we know, the periodic elements on the periodic table has a lot to do with our, you know, makeup, what makes a human being. And all of these elementals are, you know, products of these planets, and what makes the universe. So to me, how this works is, it's, as I said, it sends out energies as it's orbiting and moving in space. It creates this light on Earth, and that's where we come from, and how the Earth is even, you know, in existence. And it produces different personality traits. It produces different archetypes and different energy frequencies that gives us our very existence today. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. So Micah,
yes, sir.
How has this been beneficial to you? How has this science been beneficial to you?
Well, let's start with what JP Morgan said. He said, millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do. He said that 120 years ago. Okay, so people have known throughout time what the deal was. She's just the best. She's the best that I've found. She thinks about it in a different way than I've seen other people. I can't really explain it, but she's very good. And every time I've ever shot something to my publisher or to my publicist or something along that lines. Sorry. I've always checked with her and been like, can you just read my chart real quick? Can you see? She's told me what days to put things through, and everything has been working, but I don't know, like her information just gels with me.
So Priscilla, would you say that this is something that you naturally have? This is a naturally inbuilt thing in you to be able to do this?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. There's a ton of astrologers out there, hundreds. And it's not to say that this should be gate kept, right? Because everyone should know about it. Everybody should have some form of understanding to astrology. However, I do not believe everybody should be a practitioner of it, because your charts in itself identify if you have the ability for it, if it's naturally occurring in you, if it's something that has been predominant in your many lifetimes. We can see that. And there's just so many people that do not have a deeper ability to analyze, or even a spiritual component to it. So it's very superficial, it's very surface level. And, that's okay, again, because people, need to look at it from different angles and whatever is met with them best. However, I do feel that, like I said, it's very distinct to who you are in your energy. And when I look at my chart, there's certain aspects, there's certain placements that really give a profound, like, hey, this is for you, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So yes.
So for me personally, I have never had a reading. And for the skeptics out there, if you do a reading and say, as Micah said, you've picked key dates that certain events are meant to happen, if those events don't happen as per your reading on those days, what's the reason for that?
So everyone has free will. Sometimes we can hear information and it can deter us down a different path. Also, it's not that the science isn't, definite. It's more so that there is multiple scenarios that can happen. So you'll be within a energy of what could potentially happen. Also, because you have windows, like sometimes things aren't going to happen that exact day. They can happen, a couple months later. It all just depends on your free will and how you go around your energies, how you produce things, how you action out. So some things can be shifted, other things could be within, a time frame. So that's the best way I can explain that.
Sure. And I suppose, question to you, based on Micah's influence on you in learning about astrotheology.
Okay, so he's remarkable at that. That's what I'm gonna say, because I'm learning from him. But I did, like I said, I did find that on my own, and it sparked up like a whole rabbit hole. That's where I realized that astrology was a part of, spirituality. It was a part of God. It was really, as Santos Bonacci says, it is the religion of God. It is what what speaks for God. And I think that is what really sparked that moment with Micah, and why I'm really close to like him and wanting to learn from him, and the society that he's a part of, because they teach that astrology isn't just some science that is alone and on its own. It's really a part of a whole, and specifically the whole is how I look at it. So, but yeah, astrotheology is amazing, especially how he can go from not just one religion, but to multiple, to all of them, and really show the astrology in it. And that's profound for where we are today, because I feel like this can really change the world as a whole if we can get it out there and really show people there's nothing to be afraid of. But I see you over there doing your little prayer hands, Micah.
So you mentioned that you both worked on a book together.
Yep.
Yes.
What's the contents of that book? And you said it was aged at a young age group?
Yeah, from like 6 to 11. It's basically the story of Tony and Mara, who are these two young kids. Tony's a little older. And he basically teaches her the zodiac. He teaches her the signs. He teaches her what kind of personalities they have. Very baby Jungian in a way. And he goes through the 12 signs and everything. She learns the dates. She learns why certain signs are certain things, why it's a wheat stalk in Virgo. They learn that, and it's been doing okay so far. It's still got to spread, but it's for 6 to 11. I had a lot of friends buy it already. People from my 20-year high school reunion wanted to buy it for their nieces and nephews. It's got potential. It really does.
And it's really a form of introduction too. It's really just to try to help the kids have a different perspective, because you know what, at the age of 6, we are already, most of us, and in our times, we were already in church and we were being indoctrinated into that. So I feel like that, you know, when Micah came to me about it, it was really what sparked a major moment for me. I'm a Leo moon in the 5th house. And for those people out there that don't understand what that means, the 5th house represents children. It has a lot of other representations, but that's the house of children. And my moon is there. So, you know, moon can be mother, it can be teacher, it can be your emotions. And it's tied to that for me. So teaching children is very major for me. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, let's spark these minds to give them an opportunity, because, you know, astrology really opens your world for you. It allows you to see that you can literally have, you know, a different life on earth, you know, regardless of what you are programmed into. So, yeah.
So
I'm excited.
playing the role of the skeptic, for my viewers out there who are not familiar with this, two individuals, similar birth dates, ruled under the same signs. How do you differentiate the relevant path for each one? Or is it a one size fits both?
Oh, absolutely not. This is very distinct to everyone. So the best way for me to describe it is, you know, our fingerprints are all unique. No, there's not one human on earth that has the same fingerprints. And that is the same thing with the astrology. It is a fingerprint. It is your soul fingerprint, and your energy description. And the way that we differentiate that is through your time of birth, your location of birth, and the date and the year that you are born. Because, you know, the planets are constantly rotating, they're constantly moving. And because of this, it changes. Even a mere second can change a personality in one person born on the same day in the same year. So that time of birth is very important. And, you know, where you land on earth, latitude and longitude matters as well. So.
Micah?
I'm sorry, you just cut off.
Yeah. I suppose I'm trying to get a feel for, you've touched on how it's been of benefit to you. You've touched on the book. You said you're working on a second book for a slightly older age group.
Yeah. So to piggyback off the first book, if they read the first book, when they get into like middle school or at the beginning of high school, they could pick this book up. And this picks up probably where it leaves off. Yeah. So basically we're gonna go into houses, asteroids, planets, nodes, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna define everything in an easy way somehow, and then we're just going to go through scenarios or something. I don't know. We're still working out the kinks, but my publisher basically will publish anything I give them at this point. I've given them 9 books so far, and they it's open-ended. So actually, one of the people in the publishing house, whatchamacallit, I sent her the poster, because I have movie posters made of all the books. I sent her the movie poster, and now it's in her office. So yeah, it's
awesome.
cute. Yeah,
That is cute.
It is cute. So
Question
just
for
want to,
Priscilla.
keep it going.
So a question for Priscilla. Do you find that there's a danger of people being over-reliant on your ability or an astrologer's ability to help them in terms of what their next move is going to be? Or do you see that as a natural part of how the science can be used?
I think both. I think it depends on whose hands it's in, who's guiding the person, what the purpose is, because, you know, there are some people that, like, let's talk about energy, right? There's some people that have low vibrations, and they could have, you know, just motives that are not beneficial for them. And so that potentially can be an issue if you're dealing with an astrologer that has an energy like this, or if you're dealing with, a client that isn't ready to take in the information. So there has been people that I will not work with if our energy doesn't match. So that's another thing. Like, you shouldn't just be working with any astrologer. Your energy alignments need to match. These planet placements, they have to match, or you're just not going to get proper information, and it can cause more trouble for you and in the long run. So there is some danger to it, but there's also a lot more benefit to it, again, if you're working with the right person.
Yeah, I've never really appreciated that there needs to be a match in energy before, and that you will, if you need to, turn people away. You touched on the afterlife. Now, through many cultures and civilizations, the concept of the afterlife is a primary belief. How do you define the afterlife?
Okay, so where I'm at with that is, I do believe in some form of afterlife. Like I said, I believe we also reincarnate. I believe you pick this. It's a choice. It also depends on where you are spiritually, if you're evolved or not. What path you have to take. I do believe in multiple dimensions because of that, in multiple realities. Specifically, it all depends on where you are on the evolution scale. Spiritually, it's not just a physical thing; it's more so a spiritual thing. Because we are souls before we are these bodies. The matter aspect of it it doesn't last. We know that because we die here on earth. I strongly believe in a lot of what Santos Bonacci says of, like, he explains that we are actually born dead, but I don't like to say it like that because it sounds crazy, but that we leave a higher abode and we come into a lower one. So we come into the world of matter where everything does die. So, you're just pretty much living to die here. But I look at it as a place that it's a school, and, it's where you come to learn your lessons. It's where you come to evolve your soul. So yes, I do believe in an afterlife, just not in the way that the religious world explains it. I do not believe in hell. I don't believe in that sense of purgatory. I believe we already deal with that while we're on earth. Our little form of hell, depending on how you perceive the world, and again, where your energy level is. So hope that makes sense.
So would it be right to say that the afterlife is a recycling of energy?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And really, because again, it depends on where you are. So you're not really forced into anything. I feel it's more so you choose your path. You choose how you want to evolve, what level of evolution you're ready for, who you want to mix with. And I also do believe in karma and dharma. So I think a lot of those choices are also based on what you owe and what you, again, have to work on. So I don't necessarily believe in bad or good or negative and positive. I just feel like it's more so just lessons. It's just what you need to learn.
Okay. Micah, anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I see it one of two ways, really. Do you know that feeling when you're sleeping, but you're not dreaming? That complete lack of consciousness, lack of self-awareness, lack of all that. Have you ever had a surgery?
Yes, multiple. Yeah.
Did they put you under?
They did.
That period of time from then to then, it goes like that, but like, that's you right. Don't. One of two things are going to happen. Either we go somewhere else where we have to continue to evolve. It's still going to be work, or it's going to be like that. We're not even going to be self-aware of it. So I'm not, either way, it's a win-win. That's the way I look at it.
I agree. And I say that because, I haven't figured it out yet, but there are people in the world that don't dream. Or if, scientists say that they don't dream or that they are dreaming, they just don't remember it. And so that's
There's
why
also people that have to have their pineal gland removed. And when they
Yes.
get their pineal gland removed, they can't dream.
Yes, absolutely. So a question for you, Micah, what do you think that causes if they have to get their pineal removed? And we know that this is so some of us, that could be like the seat of the soul.
Right.
What happens to them? Like what exactly, does it change their outcome?
Well, I don't believe, so the seat of the soul, I think, is more of a metaphorical representation. When you're talking about, so you know that your brain replaces itself every 2 months, right? All the cells that die, and then it takes 2 months for your brain to replace it.
Right.
But yet every 2 months, you're still the same exact person. So there's no way that consciousness can reside in a cell.
True.
That doesn't make any sense.
Not at all. Yeah.
What do you think, so?
No, I understand what you're saying. A question I've never really asked you, Michael, is spiritually, where are you at spiritually?
So I do believe in a creator. I don't believe in the timeline. I do think the Big Bang, it's reliant on the idea of a big crunch and a big bang. It's like it's like an infinite opening in quantum physics. It's like an infinite opening and closing of the universe. Like they say that we're expanding right now, and then eventually it's going to slow down and start to collapse on itself. But I don't know what's wrong with me today. I just lost my train of thought. What was I just saying?
About
Big Bang.
Big Bang collapsing.
Oh yeah. So sorry about that.
So the question was, where are you at spiritually?
Yes, sorry, thank you. It's a combination of two things. If you read the book of Thomas, Jesus says, split a piece of wood and I'm there. Turn over a rock and you'll find me. Right? I think it's a this is hard for me to explain. I don't know why this is. Just come back to me on this. Okay. I have to think about this. I don't want to just say something.
Sure, I'll come back to you. Priscilla, how would you explain deja vus?
Interesting. Okay, so I think those deja vus are either you've played it out somewhere else in another realm before you played it out here, and I'm stuck between that or thinking that it was something that came from another lifetime. So I really think it depends on what the deja vu is, if that makes sense, like from another life. I have a sense with what he talks about quantum physics. I believe that like on a quantum level, we could potentially be living multiple existences simultaneously. So it could be, that we're also in another dimension living that out. And then, you have, a deja vu, or that you dreamed it prior and, that would happen in another lifetime. And so when you experience it again, you're like, oh, I just went through this, but it's because you played it out in your dream, in a dream state, in another dimension. So that's my answer. It's not definite, but this is what I think.
Yeah, I suppose because this isn't hard science. It's very hard to interpret these things. So it's very much based on how you personally interpret these things.
Absolutely. Perception.
Yeah, perception. You said that when looking at the Bible, at the start of the interview, you said when you started looking at the Bible, you realized you began to learn about astrotheology. What was it that you saw that set you on a journey to realize that the Bible was based on astrotheology? Oh,
good question. Okay, so the first thing was I started seeing patterns, and being a part of that religion, that Hebrew Israelite religion prior, they taught me to read the Bible in a way where it was precept upon precept. It wasn't read linear. And so I would find one verse and I would have to go back and find a verse in the Old Testament that would match that verse. And from there, I found, Enoch. And it just always dawned on me, like, who is Enoch? Why is he not mentioned that much? Where did he go? God took him where? Like, so I wanted to dig. I started researching history. I learned about the 1611 King James Version Bible, and I ordered me one. And from there, I ended up with an Apocrypha that was inside the book. And I found out that the Catholic Church did a lot with taking out extra scriptures and things that were written out through time. So I realized that history was designed more so than really how it happened. We were kind of given a whole story and things were taken out. So I got the Book of Enoch. I started reading the Book of Jubilee, and I just all of those books that they took out, the apocryphal books, and they touched a lot on astrology, especially the Book of Enoch. When he was talking about wheels within wheels and just referencing stuff like that, I was like, hold on, a wheel is an astrology chart. Like, and I just
mean Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel's wheel, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. And when I'm looking at that, I'm like, hold on, what is Ezekiel's wheel? And then so I got into etymology and started breaking down these words, and they just told me a completely different story. So that led me into astrology deeply, because I already knew about horoscopes. I was already drawn to that as a child. I was really big on I'm a Scorpio, by the way. So, my mind's already very deep. I have a Scorpio Mercury as well. So again, for those who don't know, Mercury rules the mind, and it's how you learn, think, and communicate. So having it in Scorpio is very, very profound. It's very deep. Scorpio is like the investigator. So I would just investigate and break things down. And it was kind of just like a rabbit hole, because one thing led me to another. And yeah, that's really how I started understanding astrology, was in the Bible.
So we can clearly see through ancient times the use of astrotheology. Can we see the use of astrology in ancient times?
Yes, astrology is very much, it's one of the most ancient sciences, to be honest. And, Micah explains this really well, because he explains how religion has like 7 sciences all combined, and to make these religions. Yeah, Micah, explain that so people could understand.
Yes, I can do that. Give me one quick second. So basically, you guys know me from astrology, okay? But the Bible is made up of what's known as the 7 sciences: metaphysics, astrology, that's what I do, anatomical, the skull and Golgotha, the 2 crowns in the back, alchemical, Jesus is always wearing the red and the white. That's the marriage of the red king and the white queen, or sulfur and mercury, and alchemy. Spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's not literal. It's not historical. It's not reality. It's not original. It's not. And I only teach 1/7 of it. Now, the thing is that this isn't even original. These stories go back so much further. And that's why when I don't decode holy books. Actually, that's what it is. I decode holy books, okay? Because the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish, Babylonian, Sumerian, even the Book of Enoch with astrology, astrotheology, all of these have the Code of Hammurabi, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. These all precede the Bible, and they all have this information. The Bible is the most intricate book ever put together. The problem is that it reads like common peasants 2,000 years ago. That's the problem with all their mind, with all the punishments and everything. But you fit 7 sciences in this. And you know what? The people that don't even read the New Testament, that just read the Old Testament, like Jewish people or whatever, they're missing out. They're missing out. They're missing out on a lot. So, whatever. But
yeah, history definitely shows. If we look back on even our calendar, everything is based off astrology. Even our card systems, like just your playing cards, are based off astrology. Everything is literally based off astrology. So you can definitely see it through time, how to look for it.
Yeah. It's amazing. Find me one picture of Jesus on the internet where the sun is not behind his head. Find me one. Find me one.
Yeah, even the art, you're right. Even art, ancient art, all of that it's describing.
They all knew.
Yeah.
They all knew. We got really, I say this quote a lot. I usually close my podcast with it when I'm doing presentations, but I want to read it now. Hold on. Where is it? It's from John Dominic Croissant. He says, "My point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally." And that's exactly what's happening. People are getting dumbed down. No one wants to reach for the stars for information anymore. That's why I wrote the books that I did. That's why I wrote a fiction series, because that can reach minds, you know, and the stories, the plots are fantastic, I have to say. I also predicted a vaccine issue 3 years before. My fourth book, Pangea's Pandemic, I had just watched the movie Bird Box. Remember that movie with Sandra Bullock?
That's a good movie.
People were just taking their lives. I'm gonna watch it after this interview too.
Me too.
People are just taking their lives. So my fourth book is a story about, there's a jellyfish in Japan called the Irukandji jellyfish. As I might have told you this already. Called the Irukandji jellyfish. One of the side effects when it bites you, okay, and it's predominantly in that Japan area, predominantly when it bites you, it leaves you with a fear of impending doom, to the point where many people have been run to the doctors asking for them to put themselves out of misery. And what they did was, these evil people, and I've also encoded the company name that does it. So basically these people weaponize it, that protein, and they put it in the mandated global flu vaccine. I wrote this book in 2016. I wrote it in 2016. I had to put a disclosure at the front of the book.
Wow. Micah, so speaking on that, do you believe that the pharmaceutical companies, that protein, there's the spike protein?
No, I kind of, excuse me. I can't have this image in my head of like Bill Gates reading my book and just going, "We should have thought of that." That's kind of what I basically feel. So.
Okay. Is there anything either of you want to say in closing?
Um,
And actually, Micah, feel free to answer the question regarding spirituality, your spirituality.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's a combination. Right. It's a combination of two things. What Einstein said, I believe that God is everything. God is infinite. Nothing can exist outside of infinity. So when we're born onto earth, we are a little piece of the soul of God. Okay. And if you mix that, so I don't worship God because I'm a part of God. Okay. Now,
Yes, exactly.
yeah. Now when this fucking question.
It's hard to define.
And also Einstein, whatchamacallit, Einstein's what he said about Spinoza's God. I don't know if you ever heard that quote, Eso, but he basically said he believes in the God of Spinoza, and Baruch Spinoza back in the day had this, sorry, how do I put this? He would say God would not want you in a temple or a church. I'm trying to remember. God would not want you in a temple or a church because it's cold and it's dark, and he doesn't want to see who prays the loudest. Remember, there's a part where in the Bible where people are Jesus, what was it? I just had the scripture too. But yeah, no, it's basically, he said that, God doesn't want you in a church and a temple. Go out to nature, go respect him there, go see the animals, go do this, go do that. And that's kind of how I feel. I kind of feel like I combine those two,
I got one last thing to say about that. To the people out there that end up hearing this, my idea of spirituality is that it's distinct per person. It's very individualized. You're not meant to be here and do it like your brother or your neighbor, and we can see that in God's creation because everything is different, and that is okay. So it is very personal to you. And there's no right or wrong way of understanding what God is to you, as long as you try to have some form of communion with God because we are all fragments of what God is, and you are that very version of what God is for that fragmented piece, and that's okay. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you both. Priscilla, definitely love to have you back. I have so many questions that I will save for another time. But Micah, well, I'm definitely going to have you back anyway. So thank you both for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Essa. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it too. Thank you so much.